balloons, bazookas, boobies, bosoms, boulders, cans, hooters, knockers, melons, honkers, jugs, rack, tatas, tits, torpedoes, guns, bust, doorknobs, coconuts, and our favorite one, the girls. Welcome to the All About Breastfeeding show, where your host, Lori, highlights mothers just like yourself and goes beyond the surface questions and digs deep so they share not only their joys and happiness in their daily breastfeeding life, but also their pain and struggles and how they worked through them.
Welcome to All About Breastfeeding, the place where the girls hang out. I am your host, Lori Jill Eisenstadt, IBCLC. There was a big announcement in the breastfeeding community over the last few days. It's one that I think is going to be very helpful and in the best interest of mothers and children, and yet there is a lot of controversy surrounding it. I find that what is usually lying behind controversy is capital F-E-A-R, fear. So let's get into it. What was this announcement anyway? Well, have you heard of the WIC program? It stands for Women, Infants, and Children, and it is a healthcare referral program for income-eligible women who are pregnant or postpartum, for infants and children up to age 5. It is a federal health public nutrition program administered by the USDA, that's the United States Department of Agriculture. Then we have the NWA, which stands for National WIC Association, and that is a nonprofit member association that advocates for WIC and provides educational and training to WIC staff. Now, the NWA does not create WIC policy or have oversight of WIC. The NWA recently had a nutrition, education, and breastfeeding promotion conference, and here they made a pretty big announcement. The board of directors chair, Donna Bister, said that NWA is ending its relationship with infant formula manufacturers. What exactly does this mean? What NWA is saying is that this association, which does not create WIC policy or have oversight over WIC, is ending its relationship with the infant formula manufacturers. The NWA is the education arm and advocacy voice of the nation's 12,200 WIC public health service provider agencies and the 8 million WIC mothers and young children. They will no longer be allowed to be members of NWA or exhibit at their conferences. They can no longer be advertisers or sponsors of their events and activities. We're talking about the formula companies. This resolution falls in line with the NWA's goals of supporting WIC as the nation's go-to breastfeeding program and follows a series of actions including advocating for increased funding for breastfeeding support and counseling, and promoting the involvement of IBCLCs at the state and local level as active breastfeeding team players, encouraging local agencies to adopt the NWA 6 steps to achieve breastfeeding goals for WIC clinics, and building partnerships with other public health organizations and the USDA to encourage and support breastfeeding. So the NWA and WIC are 2 separate agencies, and the NWA cannot withhold formula from families who need it. This decision to end their relationship with infant formula manufacturers has nothing to do with WIC being able to supply mothers who want or need formula. And yet, some people are going crazy over this announcement. For those of us in the breastfeeding promotion and advocacy world, this is a step closer to what we need to see happen, and yet the wheels of change take ever so long. The steps originally taken to prohibit infant formula manufacturers from exhibiting, promoting, and sponsoring their conference began back as far as 2004, and we are in 2016, first making this announcement that the ties have now been formally severed. Some people wonder why the NWA has even made this decision. Why is NWA no longer having an open invitation for infant formula manufacturers to advertise their product at conferences? Well, in 2010, the NWA released their breastfeeding strategic plan, which included 4 goals. Number 1, to promote and support exclusive breastfeeding for all WIC mothers. Number 2, all WIC staff are knowledgeable and are skilled in breastfeeding promotion and support. Number 3, that WIC is recognized as a community resource for breastfeeding promotion and support. And number 4, the federal, state, local policies and procedures that protect, support, and promote breastfeeding are developed and implemented. The organization continues to take important steps to help make WIC the nation's go-to breastfeeding program, which, by the way, used to be called the Go-To Formula Program. I am only going to be touching on some of the objectives and goals and missions of the NWA, but in the show notes, I will provide a link to the articles where you can read in greater detail the why and the how NWA is accomplishing these goals. They have good reasons to have made these decisions, and I'd like to highlight just a few points. Breastfeeding is a cost-effective preventative measure that reduces infant illness and death, supports optimal growth and development, and reduces the risk of several short and long-term health problems for infants and mothers. Breastfeeding and human milk are the normative standards for infant feeding and nutrition. Given the documented short and long-term medical and neurodevelopmental advantages of breastfeeding, infant nutrition should be considered a public health issue and not just a lifestyle choice. Global, national, and multiple maternal child health organizations and institutions, including the World Health Organization, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the U.S. General, and the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine, promote breastfeeding as the optimal and normal method of infant feeding. Participation in the WIC breastfeeding peer counseling program is associated with an increased risk of breastfeeding initiation. Women who attend WIC breastfeeding support groups are twice as likely to breastfeed as those who do not. Infant formula manufacturers have pursued the development of boutique products to compete with breast milk and pursued marketing initiatives that strategically counter efforts by WIC and the breastfeeding community to promote breastfeeding as the best form of infant feeding. The NWA recognizes that this action is not without controversy. As I expected, there's quite a bit of backlash. Many are worried that they will be cut off from getting free formula from WIC. I don't know why, as this decision clearly does not make or change policy for the WIC program. It clearly does not change WIC food packages. Mothers who need infant formula can still receive the formula through the WIC program. And this decision clearly does not prevent infant formula manufacturers from advertising to moms and families. This decision does ban infant formula manufacturers from financially supporting the NWA. This decision does bar infant formula manufacturers from exhibiting at their conferences, and it does dissolve all other relationships with NWA that they have with infant formula manufacturers. So we know that 85% of mothers in the United States start off breastfeeding their babies. They have said this as this is how they want to feed their babies. But within a few weeks, that number drops significantly, and almost half of mothers 2 weeks later are not exclusively breastfeeding their babies anymore. Some are just not breastfeeding at all. Some have switched to formula, part-time, full-time. Some are exclusively pumping their milk for their baby. And some moms are giving their babies a combination of breast milk and formula. But they are not exclusively breastfeeding, which is what they had intended to do. We know from interviewing mothers why this happens. The biggest initial barriers mothers face are a lack of breastfeeding help and support. Most mothers need some degree of education about early breastfeeding, help with positioning and latch. They need other people in their life to help take care of them and their baby. Mothers need advocates and assistance if they are struggling with supply or pain or sleepy breastfeeders. But when the pain is too much, the supply is too low, the baby is not gaining well, if these issues are not fixed quickly, this puts a huge strain on the new mother and causes her to change how she feeds her baby. What mothers are telling us is they need more help. They need greater access to IBCLCs who can assist them when breastfeeding is difficult. Mothers who are in the WIC program find themselves getting mixed messages if they are not enough staff there to offer the right guidance and breastfeeding help. I think their heart is in the right place and they have made strides, but there's still frequently not enough really good help and support, which means mothers who are in WIC and are waiting for help with breastfeeding, sometimes that wait is just too long before they get the help they need, and the formula is just easily available. The NWA is working hard to use their funds to bring in more breastfeeding expertise to the WIC programs. I don't know about you, but I have always found it quite ironic that the NWA makes money from the formula companies. They make money from paid advertisements and conference contracts and sponsorships. I mean, just think about it. How can you accept money for your organization's events and at the same time have your mission statement and employees working towards providing more breastfeeding education and programs? It just doesn't make sense to me. Does it to you? So WIC is still going to be buying formula. They are still going to give it out for free. So where is the controversy coming from? Why do some people feel threatened by this recent turn of events? A large part of the controversy comes from people just not reading this announcement correctly. They see one thing and they jump to conclusions. People sometimes see something and they have this fight or flight response and their brain just shuts down. People's negative reaction typically comes from the people who will be using the formula themselves or have concerns about others who might need to feed their baby's formula. What they read from this announcement is that WIC is no longer going to give free formula to their clients, and there is nothing in the announcement that says it. Nothing at all. So what we have is a lot of knee-jerk reactions, such as this post on one of the sites. This woman said, "I don't agree with this. I have met women who had cancer or have medical issues and cannot produce breast milk. They saw WIC as a godsend. While everyone's happy and promoting this, what about the woman who can't produce milk? Who, because of so many treatments or survivors, have been told they can't produce milk? Despite that, again, some women cannot produce milk, and I think this organization has forgotten that." Well, clearly this organization, WIC, has not forgotten that. They are not taking away formula from moms who want it or need it. Then another poster said, "Will WIC still help those mothers who do have medical issues that prevent them from breastfeeding?" Again, the answer is yes. They never said they're going to take away formula. This person posted, "There is no reason any baby ever needs to be given a drop of formula. What about the ones with dietary restrictions? You don't exactly get to choose what a milk donor eats. That's true. Or people who are in the area without a good supply of donor milk. Also true. Or the babies who need extra calories that only formula can provide. Or the people who just plain old don't want to feed their baby some stranger's milk." Now, that one kind of gets me started because I could appreciate someone not wanting to feed their baby another woman's milk that they may have never met. But I kind of have a sense of humor about this also because we just sometimes we're okay with what's familiar. So I don't want to feed my baby milk from another mother, but I'm perfectly fine to feed my baby milk from a cow that you have. It's a virtual stranger. You've never met this cow, and it's totally another mammal, and you have no idea how that mammal is being treated, what they're ingesting, what they are feeding on. So, like I said, I kind of have a sense of humor about that one. This poster also said, there are plenty of reasons for people to give their baby formula, and that's awesome. As long as the mother is feeding her baby, she's doing great. And I wish we could all stop looking down on people because they don't do things the same. Well, I agree with that. Not being able to breastfeed is hard enough without heaping shame on it. And you know what? I also agree with that. It's just that the deal is this poster did not read that article or that announcement really well because it, again, clearly says WIC is not going to give formula anymore. Then there's someone who posted this. Oh my goodness, defensive people. Read the article. It isn't restricting formula at all. The only thing they are doing is refusing to allow formula marketing booths at their events. That's it. Also, for everybody out there saying formula is very expensive and the only option for some, again, this is not true. There is an option of donor milk. This poster has been a recipient and has donated milk too. So again, I think that there is a lot of controversy surrounding it, all having to do with a knee-jerk reaction and all thinking that this decision to keep formula companies away from exhibiting at NWA's conferences and sponsoring their conferences automatically means that there's no formula from WIC, which is, there's nothing further from the truth. So all in all, I see this as a very positive turn of events. We know that one of the biggest barriers to the 85% of mothers who say they want to breastfeed is the lack of education and support they get. Well, now I see the NWA stepping up their efforts and further targeting their energy towards working their strategic plan to accomplish the following goals: to promote and support exclusive breastfeeding for all WIC mothers, to have all WIC staff knowledgeable and skilled about breastfeeding, promotion, and support. And so all of these are good, right? They could put their money towards having more people knowledgeable and skilled in helping women with breastfeeding. Is this the declaration on NWA's part going to change the breastfeeding rates overnight? I wish, but no, of course not. All these things seem little at a time, but implementing them one mother and baby at a time, one WIC office at a time, one community at a time, and we will soon be seeing some positive changes. 5 years from now, my hope is that the breastfeeding initiation rates grow along with the number of babies exclusively breastfeeding at 3 months and 6 months of age. For me, I like to go about my life with my glass half full, always optimistic and expecting things to work. I would love to hear what you have to say about this. I know this show wasn't one of my usual shows, and it was a little bit along the political side of things. But I do think it's important that we all have a pretty good idea of the big changes that are happening in the breastfeeding world. And this announcement by the NWA is pretty big in the breastfeeding world. So I would love to hear. Tell us what you have to say about it. You can leave a 90-second voicemail on the allaboutbreastfeeding.biz page. You will see the pink voicemail button on the right side of the page. Go ahead, use it. Send me a voicemail. I pay for this every month. It doesn't get used much, and I'd sure like to feel like I'm getting my money's worth. Who knows? I might even play your message on the air. One last note. Our Facebook group is growing. I have to say it's quite exciting for me to see some of the members that have joined. Erin, hey Erin, how you doing? Nice to see you in the group, and I see you brought in a friend or two. I love that I met you so early on and there was so much you did not know about breastfeeding. And now you have such internal wisdom about motherhood and breastfeeding. It's a lot of fun to see you watched and grow in the breastfeeding world. Vanessa, I am really excited to see you in the group too. When I read your introductory post, I was reminded of how hard you worked to provide breastfeeding, how hard you worked for your first baby, and man, what a different experience you had with your second baby. It's nice to be able to have different stories to share with each other. Let's everyone know that they're not alone, and just because you have a difficult time with one baby does not mean history has to repeat itself. And Jenny, you are breastfeeding your twins. Yay for you. Yes, you did have to work hard for this one too. And I love the last picture you posted. I love all the pictures posted in the group by everybody. We're having a really nice thread right now about toddler nursing. So I invite you to please join us. Search for the 4 words, all about breastfeeding community, and click on join. See you in the group. Until the next show, bye-bye.